And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we are back live after 2 weeks off. That's what happens when you have this international travel thing. Everybody, welcome to episode 54 of Everything Teams Phone Live. Brandon Bradley coming at you. Wait, no, I'm Rick Garcia and Brandon Bradley. We're both coming at you live to talk through one of the most influential social media
I'm just gonna
people
say,
around. I lost Brandon. Don't know if it's me or Brandon. I think it's Brandon.
no.
All right, there
No,
you go.
I think it's
You're
you.
back by audio. You're just gonna say what?
I was just gonna say, I
How
don't
about
know if
now? I
it's the
think we're
jet
good.
lag. You forgot who you were. We are. I can't wait till you get back to Seattle and you have real internet.
Yeah. The internet here in Arizona isn't the best. Okay. Well, we're back and let's get going here. We're gonna give Tom Arbuthnot's live updates. We're gonna give his updates. No, I'm just kidding. We're not. Tom's coming to the show, and we're gonna let him give his updates. So, Tom, welcome to the show. See that? Just like a radio host.
Hey guys.
brought you right in live, and we're ready to roll. Tom, how's it going? How are you?
It's good, thanks. It's good. Yeah, been a busy week, but all good.
You know, you get busier and busier and busier, it seems. It's like trade show season is like the spring and the fall, and it's just like you're everywhere.
We're right in peak now. So we had MVP Summit last week in Seattle, and we've got Enterprise Connect. I'm flying out on Sunday, so looking forward to that.
I heard you might have had some nice weather in Seattle when you were there.
Yeah, it was all right actually. It wasn't bad. It was a very rainy start of the week, but it pulled it back at the end. Very similar to London.
I was just listening to the radio this morning. The radio, right? I was just listening, and it said, the high temperatures last week. I'm like, oh, I think Tom was in town last week. London wasn't bad. There was a couple of dry days in London. The most, overcast and a bit cool. Brandon, would you say?
Yeah, actually, I had sunshine on Saturday. I know you had already flown home, Rick, but I was over there on Saturday, and it was a beautiful day on Saturday.
Yeah. Lots of travel, full swing.
How was the Cavell event?
Ooh, why don't you kick that one off, Brandon?
Yeah, it was for me. It was very productive. It was like, there was a lot of. I think for us, because we're now momentum, there was quite a bit more, maybe spotlight on us. Like a little more buzz around who we were, what we're doing, what our strategy is, and a lot of good productive conversations that I think followed as a result. With could be partners or just kind of even kicking ideas around with our frenemies, our friendly competitors.
Yeah, it's good to share those to an extent, isn't it?
It was a really good show, and it was nice to kind of be able to sit down with, again, like Brandon said, our partners and stuff, and really kind of sort out technology and with some of our current vendors, some potential future vendors, right? That was really interesting. Certainly at the executive level, it's pretty nice to go, like Brandon said, our frenemies, right? That was a nice quote from another very good sized Teams provider in North America. So it's always fun to engage. I took part in a panel called Telco to Techco, which was pretty interesting in itself, with Microsoft, BT, and Vodafone on there, all real pros that were there. So it was just it's fun to see where the industry's headed, what we're all doing to monetize our networks and then to serve our customers and things like that. So it was just a great show, just good sort of, I guess, a concentration of mind share about the industry in that area. So it's fantastic. So,
yeah,
and you're gearing up for, oh, go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, it was, the other piece was, obviously, Tom, you weren't there this year or this time.
Yeah, it's the first one I missed in quite a while, actually. It just clashed with the MVP Summit.
Yeah, I like the, this was I guess I'd call it the second semi-annual Operator Connect get together, right? The breakout session for just the operator. So that was
the roundtable.
A This one actually had a little more agenda to it. It was a good conversation. It's always interesting to hear how different operators are tackling, the same topics, right? Whether it's shared calling was kind of the big topic on this one.
I
But
imagine
just
that was
interesting to hear.
a big talking point, right?
Yeah, and obviously the kind of the similar frustrations coming out of the group, and just it's fun to sit in those rooms and observe and glean ideas and share ideas, and yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
when I
thanks.
was on the panel, I had a little white placard that said Tom Arbuthnot, the front chair right there, Tom. I was waiting for you to walk in the
Well,
room
you waving the
and
flag
make
for
the
me. I
panel.
appreciate that.
I had it sitting on the chair. Uh, sorry, what were you going to say, Tom?
I was just saying it's good for Microsoft as well to be around a table where everybody's talking in parallel and they hear what because quite often when you're feeding back to Microsoft, it's one-to-one. So you're like, well, we're hearing this, and they're like, oh, nobody else saying that, and then suddenly you're with all your peers, and we're like, yeah, we're all having this challenge, or we all see this opportunity. If you could do this, if you could do that, I think it's really good. It's nice Microsoft come to the table on those things as well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the shared calling stuff, that was a huge discussion, a huge talking point, and we had a call with Microsoft yesterday, and it was pretty interesting, the way that we're going about things, and to get validation the way that we're going about things these days with shared calling, because I shouldn't say it out loud on air, but we're creating packages for shared calling, right? And it's so that people within people that have teams already can just really take down a shared calling package and just kind of Daryl Hunter was on our call last week, a couple of weeks ago, and it was really just so that we could take down shared calling like water. It's like turn the tap on, turn the tap off. Daryl, there you go. That's your quote. So it's like turn the tap on. So we're creating packages here so that we can address the shared calling components so that people could just turn the outbound calling tap on, if you will, and make it really, really easy. So I guess it's rewriting how transitions take place.
I think that's what Microsoft want to drive usage, and like we can debate about shared calling and the pros and cons for carriers, but it's here either way. But I know you guys are we keep a really close eye on it. You're one of the 10 that are actively supporting it. So the vast majority of OCs are still kind of feeling their way and deciding what they're going to do. But some people have made early moves on supporting it, which obviously gives customers new opportunities to activate those seats. And I think that's what I've got a customer coming on the pod in a few weeks, hopefully, to talk about their shared calling journey, and they kind of validated, like, they're an E5 customer. They had no intention of lighting up a lot of these seats, but now it's a relatively low cost. They're like, well, why not, kind of thing.
Interesting. That's again, we look at it and go, it's almost like a lead generation thing where it's like you just go ahead and you activate shared calling, you let them run with outbound calling, you activate the seats. They're not intending on moving anything. Let's say maybe they're on a Cisco, PBX today. They haven't intended to move to Teams, full stop, but they start the shared calling process and they sit down and they kind of bake in it for a little while and they go, well, why not do this? Why not do that? And start to eat away at the additional services that Teams Phone brings. And so that's an interesting transition, because normally those would be customers that you wouldn't win in any way, at least right now, right? So now you go grab a little bit of the revenue, and then you've got an opportunity to sit on that customer and serve that customer. And when they're ready to move full stop, you're there to catch them when they move full stop.
Yeah, and that's part of the puzzle in this new world of UC and what you guys do at Momentum and others, is like you have to have more services than just the minutes, because there's other opportunities to pick up, but you got to be in the game, and that's where a lot of the OCs are, especially some of the bigger ones, maybe are just thinking about minutes, and they're not. It's different division doing a different thing, but they don't care about that. They kind of miss the bigger picture sometimes.
Yeah. Well, Tom, let's talk real quick. I would like to get your thoughts on Enterprise Connect as you kind of gear up for Enterprise Connect. I know you've got a panel there, or a session that you're doing there, or a couple of sessions that you're doing there. I'd love to cover that for just a little bit, and kind of what are your plans on what those sessions are. Maybe we can give the listeners sort of a preview, not a preview, but like, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is what I'm going to talk about, so that if they're headed to Enterprise Connect, they can stop in and say hello and join the session. And then I'd love to get into your March updates and see what's new at Microsoft.
Yeah, awesome, cool. Yeah, so Enterprise Connect, I'm sure most people are familiar who listen to this, but it's one of the big UC shows, been going for years and years and years, and it's often a show where the big UC vendors come and announce things as well. So we can certainly expect some announcements from Microsoft. I think their keynote is Tuesday with Nicole, so there'll be, typically historically there's been some pretty big announcements. I expect the same. I'm doing a session on the Monday. I'm doing a 4-hour session. Not sure how I agreed to a 4-hour session, but apparently I did. It's like a training workshop on Operator Connect. I'm putting in some, sorry, not Operator Connect, operations of Teams. So not just PSDM, but the whole piece. Like, how do you approach your operational organization, reporting, usage, contact center, recording? Like, what an ops team would need to know for Teams.
Wow,
I
I'd love to
pulled.
see the agenda for that. I'd love to see the PowerPoint for that one.
Oh yeah, well maybe I can share it with friends. But yeah, it's a pretty deep and wide session. I pulled in Graham Walsh from Neat, so he's doing Pro Portal versus kind of the Teams Admin Center and devices. Kevin Keeler's jumping in to do some reporting stuff. I got Scott from Microsoft as well doing some stuff on Copilot. So I have got a team of friends to come in, but I think it's going to be a really good session because we've got a nice amount of time to actually have a proper conversation about all the aspects as well, which will be fun.
Is it a when you think about a session, is it a good Q&A that you expect? Are you up there just kind of driving this session sort of topics, or do you think it's a good real interactive sort of, I've got this problem and this is, that kind of thing?
Yeah, Monday's like kind of like pre-day session. So this is like a session where you nominate to come extra on top of the session. So it should be like, it'll be kind of 50 sub 50 people, so we can actually have a bit of interaction, and with that time window as well, we can have a bit of Q&A. But generally the people that go to Enterprise Connect, it's not a cheap show. People go, they're pretty committed to the space, so you tend to have a good level of conversation straight away because they're coming to talk UCCX, like proper communications.
Excellent. Okay. So you're doing that session on Monday, 4-hour session. And is that the only session you've got going on, or is there another one?
No, I've got one. I'm joining a guesting on one with Neat as well, where they're doing Microsoft Teams rooms on Windows versus Microsoft Teams rooms on Android, which is still a topic that comes up from time to time with different customers. So I just did a podcast with Stephen from AstraZeneca, and they're a full like Windows house, and then you've got other people who are full Android houses, and we're kind of going to have an honest conversation about the pros and cons of each of those platforms as well.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's hop into the. So that's the Enterprise Connect. If you're headed, there's a 4-hour session. Tom, what time is your session on Monday?
12 to 4 on Monday.
12 to 4 on Monday. That's going to be a session that I would love to be in if I was headed to Enterprise Connect. I'm skipping it this year. Just lots of travel coming up. So we decided not to attend this one. Next year, we need to go at it in a much different approach and be much bigger about it. But I'm jealous. I'd love to be in the session. I look forward to getting the summary of how that breaks down a 4-hour session. Let's talk about what's new for March. What's happening in at Microsoft? What's coming out? What features are being updated? There's a lot going on, and I want to just kind of recap some of the things that you've seen roll out in March.
Yeah, let's dive in. So the biggest one is the new planner in Teams is in public preview. So Microsoft have kind of a history of various, kind of planner projects to do apps, and they're kind of converging that. So they're bringing together To Do, which is your personal tasks, Planner, which was the free in the box kind of planning tool, Trello type boards, and Project for the Web, which is the semi-premium project capability. They're bringing those all into one product called Planner, and Planner will have a premium element, and this is looking really nice at the moment. So this all tightly integrates Teams. In fact, the first thing to launch about it is the Teams related app. So when you right click on or hit the 3 dots on your individual chat messages and you create them as tasks, they're going to come into this experience. And if you need a bit more capability, you can step up to Planner Premium, which was previously Project on the Web, and it brings in extra capabilities, including a new, surprise, Copilot for Planner. So you've got some AI elements to that as well.
All right.
And then have you guys played with any of the kind of task management capabilities in Teams?
Oh, Brandon, have you done that, Brandon? I've not done any of that at all. think he's slow on the webs.
I have, yeah, I've done. I know I think my internet is struggling right now. That or it's this new computer. Yeah, I've played with it, but not in depth. Like I know we've got project teams that, they're probably more in depth with it than I am. And usually, if I'm tasked with doing something with it, it's usually because someone's prompting me and prodding me to get in there and do something with it. So I wouldn't call myself any expert on it.
I've not been in it at all, so I'm curious. Does it take the place of like I guess almost like what was the project planning software we had at one point, Brandon? It was like a
Well,
oh
we've
boy.
used like Trello. We've used I can't remember who the other one was that we were paying for, but
Yeah. I'm curious. I
Trello.
mean, not been in it at all. I'd love to see what it looks like from a project
Yeah,
planner
it's worth
perspective.
a look. So yeah, it would replace like on the personal level, like a Todoist type scenario. On the like Trello would be a good comparison. Starting to get up into like Monday or ClickUp, like it's not quite as advanced as a full-on like Microsoft project or like an enterprise resource management platform, but certainly for like small and medium internal projects would be well suited.
I wonder if that could manage. Like again, I haven't seen it at all, but it'd be interesting if it could do. If you think about Tom, when we're deploying services, right? If you take on every customer we bring on as a project, right? Every customer, right? So you go whether it's a customer of 50 users or 9,400 users, you know who you are. 9,400 users. Either way, it's a project.
Just to pick a random number.
Specific 9,403
Exactly.
users. You know who you are.
Yeah, there you go. That's more accurate. Thank you, Brandon, for clarifying. So it doesn't matter. It's a project, and it'd be interesting if you can work that into a bigger workflow where that project is managed by several. I've not seen it, but if that could be
that's
used
where
in
the
that sort of
premium
scenario.
element of this would come, where you have subtasks, you have Gantt charts, you have flow. So basic planner is very much like Trello. Like you wouldn't manage a multi-thousand user rollout on that because it's very one-dimensional. It's cards and columns. But but what is Project Premium? What was Planner on the web is starting to definitely get into that space where you can assign tasks and dependencies and have Gantts and things like that. Yeah.
Well, then you add the AI element to something like that, and I think you go and that starts to or the Copilot aspect, and then you start to what are my tasks for today, and you get that displayed to you. What are, how what's the most critical component I need to complete today, and that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, this is one of the scenarios where AI is pretty legit, isn't it? Because you can like I've got a wealth of things, I need to move dependencies, like have the AI sort it out for you, as you say, like pick out my my tasks that are at risk, pick out the tasks for me personally that matter the most, and also with the AI, you'll start to see things like pre-populated plans. So like I need to do this job. What would the typical plan be? Assign the resources, and then I can tune it up.
So not to pivot, but I want to talk about something I probably can't. I think it's under NDA. Darn it. Okay, forget it. I'll scratch that. We'll just
that's the offline conversation.
Yeah, that's the offline conversation. It was the deep Microsoft conversation that I thought was pretty awesome. Anyway, we'll skip that. Brandon, you were on that call a couple of weeks ago where we're like, wow, it's going to be able to do that. Again, it's Copilot, right? Copilot, completing tasks in the platform. So like if you see AI doing tasks for you or scheduling things for you or building out your project planner, if you can imagine that in another scenario and other, administrative sort of panels, it becomes pretty interesting for users. And I think you start to make light work out of what typically took, hours, days, right, to go build out. You're doing that automatically. So the productivity for organizations and or individuals. I wonder, this is just a philosophical question for both of you guys. Do you think that Copilot and or AI is going to either A, make us extremely more productive, like 10x our productivity, or do you think it's going to allow us to be really, really lazy? I think that's going to be, it's like, you could get your job done that you did before, same productivity. You could get it done in, a couple of clicks and you're sitting back and and you're done with some things. Whereas, someone that's really sort of into it, it's like, man, I'm doing so much. I'm cranking things out. It's like, I'm sure everyone's going to fall somewhere in the spectrum. but I was just thinking about that last night. It's like, does it
Go on,
create a
Brandon, you
significant?
go. I want to hear your opinion
What do you
first.
think?
I'll share what I think. I don't. I mean, everyone's different, right? There's probably going to be the people who would abuse, just like when corporations say unlimited PTO, right? There's always the people that abuse it. But I think in general, AI is going to bring more productivity, more efficiency, and kind of where my mind sees it is there's and this is probably more common right now in certain European countries where there's this big push for a shorter work week, right? A more condensed, better work-life balance. And I think that's what AI might help drive towards is condensing your workload into a smaller amount of time to then maybe encourage industries to move and explore more ideas around the shorter work week to bring better work-life balance and health to the employees. Just my opinion.
Yeah,
Wow.
you're right on that shorter work week thing here. Those two of our people at Empowering Cloud do 4-day work week. My wife does compressed 5 days, so she does longer days and doesn't do Fridays. So it's getting more common over here to do 4-day in any combination. Usually dropping Monday or Friday like as non-peak days.
That's exactly what I heard when we were in the pub every Thursday. Every Thursday that we're in the pub. That's exactly the comment.
Thursday night.
Brandon, you know
night.
it.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
So let's get back to your Tom's updates. At new planners coming out. That's going to be exciting to go hop in there. I've now been prompted now to go take a look and see what that looks like.
Nice. So we've got 3 premium features. So big push for Microsoft is Teams Premium. Again, stay tuned, Enterprise Connect. I would expect some announcements. The first one on Teams Premium is being able to record watermarked meetings. So this is pretty clever. So today you can watermark meetings, which means that when you flick that feature on, everybody viewing the meeting sees a personalized watermark of their email address or their UPN on the screen. And you can do that super aggressively, like you can have it caked over the screen, or you can have it sort of once on the screen. So therefore they're discouraged from taking screenshots because it's got their email all over it. But you couldn't previously record those because that's tricky. Now you can record those, and when you get the playback, it will do the same thing in stream. It will email ID display over the recording, so you can catch those on demand, and it's still watermarked to you, so it stops you or dissuades you from leaking that information.
I'm a definite screen capture kind of a person. So it's to keep me from sharing critical data.
This feature ties Rick to the chair.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So no more screen captures. All right, if it's a Teams Premium. Teams Premium is pretty interesting. I saw that you had a new post out on LinkedIn, and it was Teams Premium delivered in the most succinct way you've seen. It was that with Jason Wade. Is that who?
Yeah. Jason was awesome. He came on the pod, and I talk about it a lot, and he just explained it really, really well. And sometimes Microsoft can be a bit pitchy, but Jason was very pragmatic about here's the use cases, here's where I've seen it in customers. So it's about a 20-minute show. If you want to get a grip on what Premium actually is and why it's useful to people, it was a great pod.
Can you throw that link in the? Actually, I'll go dig it up and I'll go throw it in the team in the chat here, or in the
look at it while
not the chat on the LinkedIn thing here. That's pretty cool.
Well.
That's fantastic. We like Jason. He's a friend of the show. He's always
if you had him on the show, you should get him on the show.
He's been here a few times. I think probably as much as you. And so he's always on here, and we kind of break down customer sort of scenarios quite often. It's really nice to have him on the show.
Yeah, he's great.
Good participant for sure. Well, Teams Premium is something that I think more and more people are becoming interested or asking questions about as we start to dive further into the Teams ecosystem. Right, we do get that from customers. It would as they're activating Teams Phone, maybe would you do Teams Phone or would you do Teams Premium, and they ask us questions on the sales side if we'd be interested. If we can help explain Teams Premium, and I think that's pretty exciting because we're the more we can kind of surround the customer, the better off we are
Yeah,
with
there's
products.
opportunities around premium to help the customer with those. So there's additional webinar capabilities, there's additional branding and security capabilities in there. So there's definitely kind of some pro serve or advisory opportunities there. If the customer's investing that extra $10 a user, they're going to want to make sure they get the usage and they get the value out of it for sure.
Yeah, the webinar one is pretty exciting. Like that's people don't really associate, and this is just maybe it's just me because I'm coming again from just a straight enterprise business space. People don't associate Microsoft Teams with webinar, right? They're like, Teams is my internal communication tool. Teams
Yep.
is this. They don't really kind of understand that. So knowing that there's a massive webinar tool right there at your fingertips with Teams Premium is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that you're right as well. Like I think like people would use GoToWebinar or some dedicated webinar product, or like Zoom did well in webinar. They had a lot of good features that we didn't have originally. Like Microsoft are really with premium. You've got the green room capabilities. You've got extra capabilities like turn off the roster, which was a big one. You've got abilities to share the recording automatically afterwards, and critically for marketing teams, like controlled registration. So you can have two-step registration where they register and then you approve them. You can have the registrations all flow through to HubSpot or CRM. So some of those things that were gaps for us, and the nice thing I think about webinar for users is that the joiners, the presenters are joining on the same Teams client they do all day, every day. So that pressure of like, oh, where is everything? How's it work? No, it's just
Something
another
different,
Teams
right?
meeting.
Yeah, that's exactly
You know,
right. So it is. I've not used it, but I'd love to do it. I'd love to kind of set that up.
I was gonna say, it sounds like we need to move our live stream to Teams webinar. That's what that sounds like.
Well, you can actually stream out from it. It's a little bit tricky with RTC out. So like and interestingly, they did flight for a while this idea of having LinkedIn events be part of the Teams kind of webinar / premium experience. So I think at some point, being that Microsoft owned LinkedIn, you could see those worlds coming together.
Yeah, but not now. That's why we've got what we StreamYard today.
StreamYard, yeah, StreamYard's pretty
that's
legit. I use StreamYard and Riverside are the two kind of go-tos for like the podcast webinar scenario still. I
right.
did do some podcasting on Teams as well, but the killer thing that both StreamYard and Riverside have are local side recording for guests, so you can capture that recording locally and put it back, which as yet we don't have in Teams.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And we did a podcast together. I think all three of us actually when we were in London, and we were in the dark dungeony room.
Oh yeah, in the 8 Club. That's right.
and we
trying to get some lighting going.
That's right. It's like my smoking jacket is what I needed to put on in that room. It was hilarious. But we used the record locally feature, I think is what one of us used, or I used. I had to record locally on mine. But anyway, and we posted that, as a live 12 noon the next day, but we had it recorded that evening, which was pretty cool. Okay. All right. So Teams, the new features in Teams Premium, we're going to have to listen to the podcast piece to get that update. What's next?
Yeah, so another feature of Premium actually is defined organizational backgrounds. So you can set organizational backgrounds and force them out to users. So you can give them a library of professional backgrounds for your organization, and you can either literally enforce them, or you can say, here's your approved options, which is quite nice.
Hang on. Is that a Teams Premium feature, or is that just a new
Premium
update
feature? You can do it. You can do it today manually. Like you can say, here are the backgrounds available for organization, and individuals can install them, or if you're kind of hacky, you can put them in the right directory. The premium feature is letting the admin push them out proactively.
That's almost, if you've got a massive work from home force, right? A workforce, that's almost worth doing Teams Premium just as a control mechanism. I say that's terrible control mechanism, but as a control mechanism for your brand, right? Like, sometimes I question whether I want this in the background, right? A couple of guitars and a window, right? It's like, when we did the show and I was in Seattle, it's like the garbage truck would go by every day at noon. Remember, Brandon, to be like, like clockwork. And I look at that and go, should I have a branded sort of background? So the Teams Premium feature where you can force the backgrounds out on people, I think that's fantastic. I think that's great.
Yeah, I saw a company do it as kind of a like, what's the right phrasing? Like a normalization feature across their organization, because they had lots of grads and they had lots of senior people, like looking at our sets, we've all got, a decent space to work in. When you're first into work, you might be, living in a house share and like you're working in the same room you're living in. And like they were like, they didn't want to kind of make it feel like some people have got, mansions and some people are having to work in their bedroom. So they all had the same uniform background, which I thought was quite a nice idea as kind of like a normalization feature.
Is that like a school uniform thing?
Oh yeah, it was just like
Right.
it was like all be the same.
It is like a school uniform concept, right? Because if you think about, going to school, it's like the kids with nicer clothes, the kids with not nicer clothes, as an example. It's like when you've
Yeah,
got a school uniform, you kind of level the playing field. We're all here to do a job. We're all here to work, right? It's like,
yeah,
let's not worry about whatever's back here. It's not a thing anymore, right? Because some people do stay off camera because they don't have a space
yeah,
to work in, right?
totally.
And then what happens then is you feel not as connected to your organization because you're never on camera. Your organization doesn't feel as connected to you because you're never on camera. We're a camera first organization, and we have been for a long time. But you still get on some calls, and it's like circle, 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 and you're like, you want people to participate. You want people to take it. I want to see the animation that someone's, or an eye roll if I say something, terrible, right? It's like you want to see it all.
Can't imagine that, Rick.
I never get that. so that is, I like the idea of the controlled background. I think that is worth Teams Premium in itself. I mean, not to mention all the other stuff, but anyway, that's great. Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
No, cool. Let's go to some core features. So non-premium features. So we've got collaborative notes, which are loop components. We call them collaborative notes in Teams before and after the meeting. So the idea here is you can build an interactive, agenda or to-do list or actions before the meeting, use it during the meeting, and have it after the meeting. So, and I think we talked about this last time around the pod. Actually, Microsoft are on this kind of long journey of trying to get people to think about meetings as a complete workflow. So not we all turn up, we have a conversation, then we run off, and that's why you have the Meet app now, and you can see the before and after, and you can see the recap, and this is part of that story, is having collaborative interactive notes before, during, and after the meeting.
Brandon, what do you think about that? He's having internet problems.
I'm waiting for my internet to catch up.
Yeah, there you go. You're good.
Yeah. No, I think that's again, that just goes right back to the efficiency and getting more work done in less time, right? When you can bring efficiency even to your collaboration, where you structure the meeting with your pre-collaborations, notes and whatever, and then you're collaborating during and after, and it just helps streamline the whole conversation. And I think a lot of organizations are guilty of not properly preparing for meetings. And I see this as a tool that maybe helps them to prepare. How many meetings do we get on where we're like, I mean, Rick, you saw it this morning with me. I'm like, I don't know why I'm on this meeting. Where I think this helps help structure the, one, the meeting. Two, it maybe even helps keep that meeting on topic, because a lot of meetings also you get a lot of voices on, and that meeting can go sideways really fast.
I agree with you. So I think that's going to shorten the length of time, right? It's shortened the meeting length, right? Because if you're collaborating beforehand, you get to the meeting, you get everything that you need all in one room, and then your post meeting, it's like just one seamless experience of productivity, right? That's pretty cool.
Cool. So another one that is interesting is archiving individual channels in Teams. So previously, this was like an admin type experience. You could archive an entire team, but now you can choose to archive just a selected channel, which puts it into a read-only state. So this is part of Microsoft trying to help people use channels and Teams more, like being able to tidy up individual channels and have them like, this is no longer in use, but it's read-only for reference.
Is it read-only by Copilot?
It's still, that's a good point actually. Well, I haven't tested, to be fair, but it should be read-only, including Copilot reading it, because Copilot can read channels.
Yeah, so it's like it's like you've got archive data, and the way that you go compress and find that is via Copilot. Interesting.
Yeah, that would work.
All right, cool.
And then last one for new features, and then we'll go on to some roadmap items. This is kind of, again, part of a journey. So Microsoft are setting it up so that Teams for Life, which is the Teams consumer product. So you buy Windows 11 Home, you get the freebie version of Teams with your Outlook ID. We'll be able to join Teams commercial, so Teams work and school meetings, and vice versa. And this is part of a journey we're on to where we'll have a single Teams client, so consumer and enterprise will run the same client. But for now, what this unblocks is your organization, you're setting up interviews, a candidate joins, they're running Windows 11, they don't know, who knows the difference between Teams other than us three, like nobody. So they just click, they join, and it doesn't matter that they're on Teams consumer, they can still join the enterprise meeting.
I think that's is there a charge for that?
No charge. So that is if you use Teams, if you log into Windows with a consumer ID with an Outlook account, you just sign into Teams consumer, and the consumer side is all free to use. What was happening though, the problem is people were trying to join those meetings. It's a Teams meeting, I'll try and join with Teams, and quite rightly they weren't understanding the distinction between the Teams for Life consumer version and the enterprise version, and getting themselves tied in knots. Whereas now that will just work seamlessly, which is nice.
So is it the beginning of starting to address the Zoom advantage? And I hate to say this on here, but the Zoom advantage for a long time was the simplicity from an external user coming into your meeting, right? That's
yeah.
And
that's
now
a really good point.
Is this the start of let's create the application that then makes joining Teams meetings much easier and much friendlier, and you don't have analysts saying, this is too complex, right? Between, but Zoom is super easy. It's, so that would be pretty interesting. I think that's the beginning of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Your analyst use case is a great one, actually, because analysts tend to be solo or very small companies. They don't tend to have Office 365, so they don't live in the experience. So they'll join the 8x8 meeting for the 8x8 conference, they'll join the Zoom for the Zoom, they'll join the WebEx for the WebEx. And like because they're not running Teams day in, day out, they did experience the worst part of it, which is like joining a meeting either as a guest with no account was a bit janky. So yes, this will tidy that experience up, where if they've got any version of Teams on any platform, it will just join.
Oh, that's good. That's exciting. And I assume you send a link out, it prompts your whatever Teams application you've got on your mobile device or your PC.
Yeah, it won't
if you got
matter
Windows
anymore,
11,
it will just
right?
whichever is your most active client.
Yeah, you just pop right in. That's awesome. I think that's great. I was looking forward to the consumer version that being all sort of tidied up into the same enterprise solution. So that's pretty cool.
Cool. Right, I'm going to give you 3 roadmap items as well. So first one is the meeting pre-join screen. So I put this up on LinkedIn today as well. When you join a Teams meeting, you have that pre-join screen where you're being waiting to admitted, or you check your audio settings. That's now going to have the meeting title, the timing of the meeting, and also who's already joined. So you won't have that weird experience where if you're in the lobby and you're waiting to join, like, am I waiting on the right meeting? Is there anybody in there? What's going on? That'll be surfaced in the pre-join experience.
Do you have anything to say about that, Brandon? I'm sitting here and this is just amazing. The granularity of the customer experience that gets addressed, right? This is stuff that you may subconsciously run across, and you go, am I in the right meeting, or who am I waiting on, or whatever it may be, right? So it's just, you do run across that, but to be able to document that as a product and as an update and kind of pull that in, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid here. Is what I'm doing.
For me, I'm constantly switching back and forth between calendar view and my meeting to make sure that I click on the right one. And I'm also kind of I'm the person who kind of likes to know when I'm sitting in the waiting room who's already there, so that I'm not being dropped in blindly. And how many times have you been dropped into a meeting and you're not hosting the meeting, and now it's maybe the client, and you're waiting for the host, and now you've got like this, you've never met them before, and it's kind of like this awkward start to a conversation because you're like,
hey, how are you doing?
Especially if there's no agenda. Then you're like, well, hey, nice to meet you. I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah. I work for the organization, but I have no idea what's going on. So
okay, all right. Well, that's a good feature. That's going to be good, Brandon.
Yeah, been there, done that.
So I've got one. I want
Yeah.
your opinion on this one. This is interesting, I think. So Outlook are rolling out a feature called in-person events. So the meeting organizer is going to be able to say during when they're configuring the meeting that their preference is this is an in-person event, and the person receiving the invite will see that and they'll be able to reply, yes, I will attend in person, yes, I will attend virtually, or no, I won't attend. So it's adding that granularity on the invite to say our preference is this, and for the organizer, they'll be able to tell, okay, 4 people are turning up in person, 3 people are turning up online, or whatever it may be.
Brandon?
I love the idea of this because I love the idea of this because I'll give the example, Rick, when you went to Dallas to meet with a certain customer, and at the last minute I decided to stay, virtual. And
Ah,
it would have been nice to let them know that I was going to be virtual, whereas you would have accepted in person for that meeting. Because what ended up happening is the virtual experience was not signed into, it was not set up, and it wasn't prepared. And so for me, it was an awful experience as far as audio, and couldn't hear everyone in the room because
Yeah.
someone just had to join via a laptop and let me listen through the cheap little microphone on the laptop, and all the noise canceling on Teams, which is really good, kicked in. So, having that flexibility to say, hey, we're going to organize, whether it's a dinner get together, on-site meeting with a client or a vendor, being able to prearrange kind of the poll, if you will, to get an idea of, do we need to prepare for a virtual experience as well as the on-site experience? So awesome feature coming there for sure.
that's a good use case. That's a perfect use case because we have that happen often, right? If some there's particularly as the organization, we're part of a larger organization, right? I mean, when I say larger, it's there's you're not one person going to an organization. Let's say you're having an in-person meeting. It's not typically one person. It's typically 3 people, 4 people at a at a location. And if you're constantly having someone that's joining remote, and there's a couple people in person, that makes that experience a bit more seamless, right? So you know exactly who's coming, who's participating, and again how to prepare for it. I think that's cool. Good use case.
Cool. And then last one on the roadmaps is walkie-talkie. So Microsoft are making a big push for frontline worker. They keep improving things like shifts, and walkie-talkie's got a lot of love lately. And the latest feature is you could previously only use a certain subset of either handsets with special action buttons or headsets with special buttons that would invoke the walkie-talkie, the two-way. Now you'll be able to use any headset with a play pause. So they're going to map the play pause button when you're in walkie-talkie mode to transmit, not transmit, which will mean that people can pick up different types of headsets and use that with walkie-talkie.
Walkie-talkie. Have you used walkie-talkie, Tom? Have you tried it?
Yeah, I have like used it to test basically. I haven't got many customers in that retail frontline scenario, but essentially you map a subset of users to a channel, literally a Teams channel, and that becomes an audio capability as well. So you can then press the talk. The difference is though, as opposed to traditional walkie-talkies, is it's going over IP or over internet. So you can do cool things like you could have, the retail store on one block and you can have the warehouse 3 blocks over, and you're not literally transmitting because you're going over the internet, right? So you can have everybody on the same channel across multiple stores or multiple locations. I think it's primarily a cost saving thing compared to putting in traditional walkie-talkie or DECT. You can just do over standard Teams phone mobile client.
Right. Interesting. I've not tried it yet. Brandon, have you tried it at all? Walkie-talkie? I've wanted to because I think it's pretty interesting. I mean, for that exact example that you gave, Tom, where if you want to, hey, is this in stock? Hey, something, just kind of communicating with the warehouse. I think that's a great example. Communicating with the if you're a Caterpillar dealer as an example, and you've got people out on the not the floor, but in the yard, if you will,
Yeah.
right on the yard, coming back to the parts person saying, we need something like this. I think there's a lot of really good use cases for walkie-talkie, and I've wanted to try, but I've not set it up at all, and we've not given it a run. But Brandon, have you used it?
Yeah, much like Tom, I've played with it just to see how it gets set up, kind of what its limitations are. Like we've had customers ask, well, can I just do one-to-one? Meaning, can I just go find Tom's name and enable walkie-talkie? So just understanding what the limitations around it were or are. And then back to the use case. Yeah, it's endless use cases that you could, it's what anything you would ever use a walkie-talkie for.
Because we do have quite a few customers that are facilities driven and have kind of that frontline worker, right? I mean, those massive, big retail organizations, so that is part of that normal workday, I think, for a lot of facility type of, have, Teams is, I call Teams originally, it was the knowledge worker, right? Now they're kind of coming out of just the knowledge worker, really migrating into the facilities sort of environment. If you're, run a hospital or whatever it may be, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to kind of really do understand walkie-talkie. For me, again, I don't understand. I haven't used it at all, so I haven't played the scenarios back in my head. But that would be interesting to go work through and take a look at. So it sounds like some good updates for walkie-talkie.
Awesome. So can we
Coming.
jump on some AI news? Because
Oh man,
I want to get your
let's do
opinion
it.
on this.
Let's do it.
So
Wait, before you get into it, I'm putting together next week's show, and I don't know if I stole this from someone, so if I stole it from you, I apologize. I had Promptapalooza. So I want to have someone come on, a guest. I've got a couple of invites out for guests where we're just going to go through massive Copilot prompts just
you
to
need
pump them
Michelle
out.
Borman. He does like a prompt of the week thing. He's really deep
Michelle.
on it.
It's in his inbox. It's in his inbox.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
You need him on at some point. Yeah. So this is really quite a big deal, actually. The Google DeepMind co-founder, Mustafa Suleyman. So he's one of the kind of, originators of this wave, and DeepMind was what Google originally ended up buying, and like they were building models very much like an OpenAI competitor, I guess. They were building their own models, they were building their own chat thing. He's now been hired by Microsoft. He's going to run an AI division, so he's CEO of the AI division, and quite a few key people in that team have come over to Microsoft as well. So Microsoft, they've managed to get in with OpenAI with the investment, and now they've got some real key talent from the DeepMind side coming over to Microsoft as well.
Interesting. So that is. I'm curious. So was he working still with Google, or he was not in Google and it was pulled back, and then you just pop over to Microsoft? Do you know the history there?
Yeah. So originally DeepMind was separate from Google, and Google bought that, and that was their kind of first push in. I believe he was at Google until he's come over to Microsoft. So yeah, it's quite a big hire for them.
That is pretty interesting because I assume it's the division that was quickly not formulated, but that was quickly put together when what's his name, oh boy.
Yeah, Sam Altman. Yeah,
when Sam Altman was going to come over to Microsoft, right? So it's like, was that the group that we're talking about?
Microsoft are kind of playing. I mean, full credit to Satya Nadella here, but they're playing a kind of blinding game here of, they're either like heavily invested. They put 15 million into Muriel, like a Paris-based AI outfit as well, which is a tiny amount of money, but like they're just like they're putting fingers in multiple pies. And I think bringing these people in house, like OpenAI, part of that deal is they get to use all OpenAI's models commercially for all their stuff. So ChatGPT is the OpenAI version, Copilot is the Microsoft version with the Microsoft proprietary data as well. I think this is Microsoft bringing some talent fully in-house so they can build their own things up, because they're already working on dedicated chips, they're already working on their own models. But yeah, pretty significant hire in the space.
Well, yeah, I mean, this whole industry, it's obviously, if you've watched the markets lately, right? It's, I mean, you got the Ozempic effect in the economy, and you've got AI. Those are the two big drivers of economic shift right now. And you look at that, and you go, this is going to be the space to dominate and own in the future if you're going to be the big heavyweight organization. So bringing it all in house, or pulling a team together that's going to be the I guess just in house. I think that's pretty exciting for Microsoft. Really, this is a long investment here, right? To drive
Yeah,
their product set deeper and deeper. I think this is great.
yeah, it's really significant. Obviously, from a partner point of view, from a customer point of view, you get to inherit all those benefits. So if you're using Microsoft 365, you're going to see that technology come through in all sorts of Copilot capabilities. And if you're a ISV or a large enterprise that does dev, you're going to start to see new models coming out through Azure that you can have on a consumption basis. So there's definitely a bit of a moat here with this technology where you kind of have to have the billions of a
Hmm.
Google and Amazon and Microsoft to build the crazy big models, but actually there's a really interesting long tail of open source models and extra capabilities and having them on consumption, which means that it's not just the mega clouds that inherit this benefit. We can all take different capabilities and build our own models and do our own things. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it shakes out.
It is. In fact, I was just thinking about that. I read an article on, I think it was the CEO of Perplexity that was recruiting an AI person. They're like, not until you've got 17,000 GPUs, don't come to me. And to be able to buy 17,000 GPUs, he's like, this is like $1 billion, or it's like, it's
Yeah.
like, how does a startup compete in that way? But that's pretty interesting. It is going to be if you're the world's biggest companies, you'll be able to pull the resources together to go invest in this space. I'm trying to think about what a good analogy is, like, because there is the moat was it is a great example. It's like, the big organizations that can afford to do the dev or the R&D that it takes to go do this, right? The computational horsepower that it takes to do this are going to be the almost like the blue chips of tomorrow, right? If you can figure out how to weave your way into that, that's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting what Meta are doing actually, because Meta are kind of on the, I'm not a huge fan of that company's philosophy historically, but they're on the open source side of this conversation. So I think they feel like they've missed the chance to be proprietary, and Zuckerberg's pushing all this stuff into open source, and there's a few other, there's Hugging Face and others. So yeah, it's definitely, although OpenAI have stolen the immediate kind of conversation and GPT and ChatGPT has become the brand, there's a lot going on in the space there'll definitely be options.
Yeah. So let me get back to Tom. Yeah, I don't think you answered this question, Tom. Is Copilot / AI in our workplace going to make people a bit lazy in their approach, or extremely more productive? Brandon took the I'm going to call it the Switzerland approach, and was like, well, you have some over here and some over there. What's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I mean, there's a real danger that if it's not deployed properly, people are like, the AI generated a thing and I'm done, but that's not going to be of the same standard as somebody doing well. I kind of hope this drives us to outcome-based management rather than time-based management, because like I don't care if you work 2 hours or 10 hours, I want the outcome, and actually, all power to you if you can use AI tools to make the outcome better, faster, cheaper. So I hope organizations do that. Unfortunately, organizations historically, particularly big ones, are kind of a bit clock watchy. So we'll see how that plays out. But I don't think we're at a point where if the tools can do your job completely, you're probably not going to have a job. You're going to have to add value beyond the tools. So like
Right.
I don't think we'll suddenly all be working 2 hours a week, although that would be awesome. I think I don't think it's going to happen. I think we'll just all get a bit more productive. It's almost like if you think about, imagine trying to work without a computer or a mobile now. Like that would be crazy, right? You can't even think about how that's possible. But at some point, laptops came in and computers came in, and we all got better. I think it's just the next generation of that.
No, the next generation of better. I got it. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Brandon, what's, any final words on that particular subject at all?
I mean, Tom, as you were talking about kind of the bigger AI story, I was thinking, from Rick, from your and I's perspective, you've got the Microsoft, you've got the Google, you've got these big enterprises that are developing massively good products around AI. But then you've got the enterprise space. Yes, the huge enterprises can maybe invest and start to understand all of this and start to consume it. But there still seems, in my mind, to be somewhat of a large gap between what's being brought out into the marketplace and the ability to quickly and easily adopt what's coming out into the marketplace. And from maybe a service provider perspective, what does that mean for their opportunities around it? And I think there's huge opportunities for the MSPs and the service providers to create product silos or product flows that bring AI into it that help the customer adopt it, maybe without them needing to have this huge education around it. And so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of the middle market area around, how people monetize it to get it into the hands of the consumer.
You're absolutely right. I mean, that's exactly what this creates, Brandon, right? I think you're absolutely right, though. It creates opportunity for the Microsoft partners, the consultants, the IT field, right? It creates a business, business process, consultants, right? It creates an entire opportunity. It's almost like adding the internet to businesses again, right? It's like, it creates a whole new set. It's a whole new industry, bringing AI to an enterprise so that an enterprise can understand how to use it, because we live and work in this business all day, every day. Right. And so we see what's next, we see what's new. But the business down the street, right? The law firm, the 200-person law firm, they're going about business their normal way. They still got a short telephone system, right? In their office. And they have no clue how AI impacts them at all. But when you walk in and you can tell them, here, well, let's go read all your documents instantly. And here's an interface to go ahead and just, read all the historical case study that you have, like, scanned into your system, whatever it may be, right? Like, there's so many use cases that it's going to create an entire industry to go support the deployment of that into enterprises. Tom?
Yeah, for sure. Like, and there's two parts to it. One is just helping them use the tools they've already got. Like, so they've got access to M365 Copilot, but do they know how to use it? And then what you clocked onto, Brandon, there, like the line of business use cases. Like, there's various models out here. There's various options out here. There's security considerations. There's governance considerations. They're going to need expert help. The other thing that's super cool about like sub 250 kind of 500 seat type customers is they're big enough to spend, but they're small enough to appreciate the impact of a relatively small change. Like, they're like, if you can save them a head or half a head, that's meaningful to them.
Right.
So you don't have to change their entire world. You can just be like, well, the paralegals do this for 50 hours a week. Oh, we can halve that time by doing this thing for them. That's really, really meaningful to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think we've hit the top of the hour, and that's going to be a wrap. One more time, Tom, your show time at Enterprise Connect.
Yeah, 12 till 4 on the Monday, Enterprise Connect. I'll be there every week, so if you see me knocking around, do come and say hello. And I think I'm talking with Neat on the Wednesday. Microsoft Keynote is Tuesday. Look out for, I've got a few interviews with Microsoft people going out to LinkedIn as well, so there'll be some news coming.
Excellent. All right, Brandon, and you and I getting back from London. It's nice to be settled in for just a little bit and take a week and be local, because we've got a whole April worth of travel every week in April. So it's nice to kind of settle in the last week here in March. So that's episode 54, everyone. Thank you to Tom Arbuthnot for joining us and giving us the Tom's tips for the month. That's fantastic. Great sort of updates from Microsoft coming out. It's like you only see a few bullets, but it's pretty meaningful and impactful when you take those service features and understand how to implement them, understand what they are. So thank you very much, Tom, for stopping by and helping us share with our community. Thank you so much. Brandon, episode 54, that's a wrap. You want to take us out?
I'll do my best with my weird internet stuff going on, but happy Friday. Hope to see you guys or our listeners out at some of these various shows that we'll be at. Tom, thank you very much. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye, everybody.